I hope you have your Bibles with you this morning. We're looking at the book of Proverbs, and we're looking at the theme of discipline in the book of Proverbs, the discipline that starts with God's discipline of us as He corrects us so that we might stay on the right path. And then the discipline that the parents should mirror of God's discipline as they raise their children. We should discipline our children, train our children in patterns that God has given us in the way in which He deals with us, His children, whom He loves. And so we're looking at some of those principles, and we've already looked at 4 principles concerning discipline found in Proverbs. First of all, we've seen that it reveals love. True discipline reveals love because we love our child so much that we want them to walk in the right pathway. And it also gives hope because it allows a child to see that as they are disciplined and trained and changed, that their pathway is straight and life is working out much better for them. It gives them hope. A third principle is that it provides direction in our lives. It trains us to walk in a way that we wouldn't normally walk because that is not our normal bent. And so it trains us. And then fourth, it drives away folly. Our normal bent is towards folly. It's towards foolishness. And so foolishness is bound up in our hearts, and so discipline drives it from us. Now here's a fifth principle, chapter 23 and verse 13, and that is that it saves their lives. Its discipline saves their lives. Look at verse 13. Do not hold back discipline from the child. Although you strike him with the rod, he will not die. You should strike him with the rod and rescue his soul from Sheol. And so rather than discipline killing a child or abusing a child, it helps a child. It rescues them from the consequences of their own sinful behavior. Sin not only is bad and awful, and it also carries with it consequences. So every sin has consequences, some much worse than others, of course. But if we can spare a child that sinful behavior and that consequence, how much we have loved them, how much we have demonstrated and shown them true love through that discipline. And so he says, don't hold it back, don't resist. You will help them, you will save them from Sheol. Sheol in the Old Testament was death. It's just as a picture here of basic altogether destruction. It will save them from a life of disruption and destruction. Another principle is found in chapter 29 and verse 15, and that is that in this verse it says this: the rod of reproof gives wisdom, but a child who gets his own way will shame his mother. And so the next principle is that it gives wisdom. You're not only correcting a child from folly, from going the wrong way, but you're instructing them through that correction in the right way to walk and live, and that is the way of wisdom in the book of Proverbs. And it says that if we do this in that particular verse, that a child who gets his own way brings shame to his mother. And so what a sad thing to think that a child, we think by not disciplining, by letting a child do his own thing or her own thing, that somehow we love them more that way. That's not what the Bible teaches. If we love our child, we discipline them. We help them go the right path. Those who do not do that are inviting a lifestyle of that child that will eventually turn back on the parent and bring them shame, and bring them hurt, and bring them pain, because that child is going their own way, the wrong way. And that leads to another principle here that's kind of on the backside of that, and that a child that is properly disciplined brings comfort and delight to their mom and dad. Verse 17, correct your son and he will give you comfort. He will also delight your soul. Correct your son and he will give you comfort. What parent who raises children would want to raise a child to give them pain and unhappiness throughout the rest of their life? You raise a child for 18 or 20 years, that child goes out and then turns bad, goes the wrong direction, and does shameful and awful things. And it brings back pain and hurt and suffering to the parent. That is not the goal of any parent that I could ever imagine. And so it says here in this passage here, correct him, he'll give you comfort. So the goal here in this regard is I'm going to raise a child so that they walk in the ways of God. And because they're walking in the ways of God, that will not only be good for that child and their life going forward, but that will come back on me as a parent and bring me joy and happiness and comfort and a good relationship, I trust, with your children as they grow up to adulthood themselves. And we will be able to have good friendships and joyful memories with our children because they are giving us comfort here. But a child who gets his own way, it said in verse 15, brings shame to his mother. That's the opposite of this. The one who does its own thing, his own thing, the one who walks in folly, the one who lives in foolishness, it will almost guarantee bring shame and hurt and pain to their parents in later life. Discipline, as this final principle that we'll look at in the book of Proverbs, is geared to help our children walk in wisdom, to walk in the pathway that God has laid out for them. And we're in teamwork with God to raise a child who lives like that. A wonderful result that comes back to us as parents who do that is to have children who bring us comfort and not shame. And so these are wise words in the book of Proverbs and some very powerful principles that we should pay close attention to. We're going to close up our week concerning discipline by looking at some of the responses to discipline, both good and bad, that's found in the book of Proverbs. So I hope you can join us tomorrow.